This is a Fox News alert. I'm Jesse Waters. Tropical storm Florence still pounding the Carolinas with torrential rain and gusty winds almost 2 days since it made landfall near Wrightsville Beach. Widespread flooding is being reported throughout much of North Carolina. At least 12 people have died. More than 1 million homes are without power. Hundreds of homes have been destroyed, and officials fear the worst may not be over yet. We'll have live coverage from the hardest hit spots coming up. But first, here's a look at the catastrophic storm as it came ashore yesterday morning.
We have days of rain ahead of us. That means more rivers will rise and flood communities.
The backside of the storm just refuses to break. We're seeing very strong winds coming in right up the ocean, the rain coming in sheets sideways. This wind is still strong enough to break off parts of the houses along the beach.
We're using the boat, get everybody out of there.
Wilmington, North Carolina, took a direct hit from Florence, and that's where we find Rick Leventhal. What's the latest there, Rick?
Well, Jesse, it was we had a lull in the rain until just about 5 minutes ago. It started coming down again. We're expecting another one of those heavy squalls to blow through here. Wilmington is in the dark tonight. They've been able to restore some power, but not to this historic district, which we'll pan off and show you one of these dark streets, which are littered with downed trees. We'll show you some of that in just a minute. But first, I wanted to tell you about an unfortunate situation here earlier that we drove up on, which was some people taking advantage of the storm by looting a dollar store. Just a few minutes from this beautiful neighborhood, there were folks going into that store and walking out with armfuls of stuff that they didn't pay for. The Wilmington police actually put out a tweet saying that they weren't going after the looters because the store had asked them not to. But after that happened, and after a lot of people started getting pretty upset about the whole situation, the police did move in, and we're told they've made at least half a dozen arrests. So we got that going on. We also have some pretty bad destruction, as I mentioned, around here. This neighborhood, the historic district, littered with downed trees now, Jesse, including one area that looked like it was hit by a twister, where a roof was ripped off and the debris littering the street in front of it. And then just down from there, a massive tree ripped up by the roots with the sidewalk all torn up around it, and then
Wow.
We could see a block down the road where more trees were splintered. Clearly there was something that touched down and blew through that area, and this entire area has seen a lot of trees come down just like that, big old trees. And Clark Hipp and Susan Dillard have been living in this neighborhood for more than 30 years, and they're sitting in two of the most comfortable chairs we've ever sat in, that I guess were your grandmother?
Grandma Bessie's chairs.
So thanks to Grandma Betsy. I'm sure you thank her every day you sit in that chair. But you guys were here riding out the storm.
Right.
There was no mandatory evacuation order here. But describe for me what that night was like.
So we've been here over 30 years. We've been through quite a few storms, and this was certainly one of the roughest we've been through. The wind was very heavy. The rain was very heavy. Our house is over 100 years old. But it still shook, and you could feel the power of the storm.
Yeah, it's got to tear you up to look around and see all those beautiful old trees that have just toppled down, littering the streets around you.
I've told several people recently through tweets that downtown will never be the same. It's going to take another 50 to 75 years for these trees to grow back. I'm really sad for what we've lost in the trees.
And not just trees. Jesse, Clark, as an architect, you were working on restoring an old brick building. It was built the early 1900s,
1919, right? It was on Castle Street, and the Historic Wilmington Foundation decided to undertake rehabilitating it, and unfortunately it didn't make it through the storm.
Yeah,
So
the brick just toppled.
it was amazing.
Yeah. And you're still in love with this town, obviously. You're not going anywhere.
Oh, we're not going anywhere. We've never left for a storm. We did think about it when it was a Category 4.
Yeah.
But to be quite honest, if this is a Category 1, we'll have to think doubly hard next time.
Well, there you go.
It was a tough one.
Thank you, Clark.
Thank you.
This was it was fortunate for all the folks down here, Jesse, that it wasn't a stronger storm, which they thought it might be.
Right.
But that said, as you reported, the floodwaters are going to cause massive problems across the state, not just here on the east, but across the state.
Well,
for the next,
Clark and
few
Susan are
days.
brave souls for sticking around. I definitely would have skedaddled out of there. I don't know how they had the courage to do that, and it looks like they're okay. I can't believe the police sent out that tweet about the looting and saying that they're not going to prosecute looters. That seems like an open invitation to loot. And in North Carolina, when you do loot during a natural disaster or a state of emergency, they jack that up to a felony. So they're going to be doing hard time if they catch these people. So hopefully they do.
Well, what the police tweeted out initially was, we're aware of the looting. Unfortunately, management has asked not to intervene at this time. So they were saying that the dollar store was telling them, don't arrest anybody. We're okay with it, basically.
And this is just a small situation. The rest of, I believe, the area in and around those parts that were hit, no one's looting. Everybody's, not misbehaving. So this is a one-off. And hopefully this lady gets popped for that, because that's just awful.
Well, I did hear of another example in Wrightsville Beach, where we rode out the hurricane, where it made a direct hit, that someone, possibly some kind of contractor, had talked their way in with a residence pass and then was going in and breaking into houses. The town was deserted.
Wow.
And I believe they caught this person because I was given some information about him.
Good.
But, that stuff does go on, and they're obviously
It does.
looking out
the
for it.
authorities
Here,
have to come down hard on these people, because you got to make an example of them. All right, Rick, great job down there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jesse.
New Bern has seen some of the worst flooding from Florence, and that's where Leland Vittert joins us from now. All right, Leland, what's the latest?
Jesse, you and I talked on Thursday during the 5. It was raining then. It is still raining now. It has not stopped. In New Bern and where we have been in Morehead City and Atlantic Beach, this storm has really brought out the very best in people. The neighborhood behind me flooded over the past couple of days, and it was hundreds of volunteers who showed up here with their own boats. I talked to one guy from Pittsburgh who brought his boat down to be able to rescue people. This morning, they pulled 70 people out of the homes here. Somebody who knows a lot about this neighborhood, Rex Bennett, grew up on this street. His mom's house is flooded. Mom's not going back home, right?
Absolutely not. The devastation has just been too much, and she's said she's just done with it.
This is pretty cool in terms of what this storm brings out in terms of the very best of people. We have some pictures to show you of Rex's business. Rex is a funeral director, and he opened up the funeral home when you heard about all these people being rescued. Tell me what happened. How many people you got staying there now?
Well, during the height of it, we had about 20 people there, including people that were rescued, and then my family as well, who was just sheltering there to take care of things while the storm was going on. But we heard about some people that were in trouble through Facebook, and they were friends of ours. Of course, we just began to be praying. But after that, found out they were safe and they had no place to go. I said, bring them on.
Rex, what makes North Carolina so special is we were down earlier today off the coast in Beaufort. We saw guys heading out in their own boats, 40-knot winds, trying to check on people, rescue people that were cut off and trapped. Here we've got people opening up their businesses and their homes to complete strangers. What makes this place so special? What's different?
Here in North Carolina, I think you said it earlier, people don't ask for a lot of help, but we just pull together and get things done.
Where does this go from here? And so our viewers understand, we're on the very far eastern part of North Carolina. As this storm moves west, there's going to be a lot more neighborhoods just like this.
Absolutely. There's a lot of people west of here that are already starting to experience the inland flooding as the waters move down through the tributaries and the rivers, trying to get back down to the coast. And so I've just learned that Craven County, where we're at, is already landlocked. All the roads in and out to the west and north and south of us are covered by water.
What does that mean? What's it like in town right now? We look around, it's pitch black. How are supplies? Gas is tough to find. How about groceries, that kind of stuff?
There are a few places in town that are open, but the few places that are, the lines are excessively long. I passed by one gas station when we came out to check on Mom's house earlier, and I mean the line, was just stretched for as far as you could see almost in both directions. So people are just clamoring to try to get as much supplies as they can. And
all right,
so
Leland, tell Rex that
What are the silver linings for New Bern, Jesse?
Yeah, tell Rex I cannot believe he opened the funeral home up for these people. It must have been a surreal experience to ride out a deadly storm in a funeral home, but I guess you got to do what you got to do. And Leland, great reporting down there. Stay safe and take care. While North Carolina bore the brunt of the storm, its neighbor to the south is seeing some devastating effects too. Joining me now from Florence, South Carolina, is Ellison Barber. All right, what's going on down there in South Carolina?
Hey, Jesse, so we've had a much easier couple days than the guys have. The rain here really didn't come in until yesterday afternoon, and you can see right now it's relatively light. Right now, there was an evacuation order for Florence, South Carolina, but officials lifted that earlier today. There is still a curfew in place. It's supposed to go into effect at 8 o'clock, but you can see there are still some people out and about. The big concern for officials here, of course, is the rain and the potential for flooding, and the biggest worry right now is about an hour and a half away from us in Horry County. That's Georgetown, South Carolina, near the water. There, emergency officials say that they are working on 2 temporary flooding structures to try and keep a highway into that county open. The evacuation orders there are still in effect. Here, though, people seem to be spending a lot of time at this Waffle House. This Waffle House has been open for the past couple of days. We talked to one worker who said she's been working from 6 a.m. into the night for the last couple of days. They're about to close right now, and the only reason is because of that curfew. So Waffle House, a lot of people have been talking about it the last couple of days. There's this thing they call the Waffle House Index. Back in 2011, FEMA officials started using it. Since Waffle House are all over the place and usually open 24 hours, they said they could see if a Waffle House was open, full menu, or partial. This one, obviously still open. We've tried to get people to talk to us tonight. For the most part, they're passing because they are worried about that curfew. But officials are saying even though things are light here right now, people do really still need to be careful, and they're urging people to stay inside. But, I mean, when you need eggs, I guess you need eggs.
Right, and I guess a Waffle House is better than a funeral home. Ellison, thank you very much, and stay safe down there. All right, Diamond and Silk are riding out the storm in North Carolina, and we're going to be checking in with them a little